Hey guys, one of the numbers that I've been offering as a specification for handguns when I review them or just present them to you, that's something that I hadn't seen in any kind of spec sheet, was trigger reach. The distance from this part of the trigger, the most inner part of the curve, to the most inner part of the curve in the back of the grip, or the apex of the grip tang to the apex of the trigger. And I would provide that number as some way to be a meaningful measure of what size a pistol might be, whether it fits your hand or how comparable it is to something else. The only problem is, and it bothered me the whole time because I knew that wasn't the whole picture. If you look at these two pistols, you can see that that number looks like it would be very close. And it is very close. It's not identical, but it's very close. However, if we stand these two pistols up this way, you can see that one of them is significantly thicker than the other. Well, that has to be taken into account because your hand is going to wrap around the thicker pistol differently than it does the thinner pistol. And in theory, you're not going to have as much finger left by the time you get to the trigger. So you can talk about whether the flesh of your finger can, bend and curve and sort of recess down into the contours of the pistol. And I've no doubt that it can. But the bones underneath can't. So at the end of the day, you can only still reach as far as your bones will allow you to reach. Doesn't matter. A good friend of mine suggested, and I did think about it even before then, and I gave it more consideration after that I use a soft tape like this to come up with a number. And I did think about that, but again, if I'm going to lay a soft tape into the contours of a handgun, the human bone can't do that. I can't make the bones in my hand do what I'm doing with this tape. So it's got to be linear. It also just keeps it very simple. Not everybody has a tape like that. And I wanted this to be something that anybody can measure and get an idea that, hey, a gun I like comes up with this number on the grip index. And so if I see other guns that are similar to that number, I know they're probably going to fit my hand well. That's the idea behind it. So I'm using as my example for how it's done these two guns, the 6-hour P220 and the 6-hour P227, because they are almost identical in every way except the thickness. Hopefully this will demonstrate why the just an opinion grip index means something. So take my regular caliper. I do recommend you use a caliper other than some, flat measure or like a ruler or something, because that way it allows you to get in here. I can make sure that I find the shortest distance and that I'm snug without moving the trigger. And then I come up with a number. In this case, 2.964 is the number I have. And that is a little bit more than the number I had originally come up with, which was 2.957. So you can see that even with the same person and the same caliber, you can see that the same person, even with the same caliper, could potentially get different numbers. So there we go, 2.957, and that is exactly what I had last time. So I am able to duplicate that, but there is going to be a little bit of room for error, but not a whole lot. So 2.957 is the trigger reach on the P220. Now, if we measure the thickness, I try to measure it. I'll show you two ways. I try to measure it right here at the grip tang, and I'm deliberately looking for the thinnest part where your hand is going to wrap around. And in this case, I'm coming up with 1220, well, 1229 is what it says now. It was about 1227 when I was on the grip. So 1.227. So 2.957 times 1.227. It is as simple as that. It's just multiplication. Multiply this number by this number. That gives me a grip index of 3.628 for the P220. This is a single stack 45. All right, so here's the P227. Let's trade places. P227 is going to have very similar numbers for this initial. So about 2.880 is what I got. 2.880, that is the trigger reach from here to here. The thickness, significantly different. 1474, 1473, somewhere right in that neighborhood. 1474 was what I had initially recorded, so I'm going to go with that. This is 1473 and a half. I don't think anybody wants to argue too much over a half a thousandth. That gives us a grip index of 4.245. So 3.628 for the P220 versus 4.245 for the P227. And hopefully you can see now that the idea is for this to sort of be like a shoe size. You start getting the idea that, yeah, I like a 3.5 inch grip index, or I like a 3.8 inch grip index, that type of thing. So that's that. That's what it's about. You'll see these numbers as I put them together. I'm going to try and include these. Every time I talk about a gun, I'm going to try and give you this number so we can build a database together. You can do it yourself for the gun. Pick your favorite, the one that fits your hand the best. Get these numbers, and then you'll know whether a gun is going to be one you might like. So just for fun, here's the M&P 45 Shield, right? So just to take a look at something a little interesting on the other side of the scale. So we've got 2.733, 2.721 was my initial measurement on this. And then the big difference, and you see that number is really not that far off of some duty size pistols, but then you get here and you get into the 0.930. So you get very, very thin, and that makes a big difference. That gives us a grip index of 2.538. So we've gone from 4.245 grip index for this guy to 2.538 grip index for this little guy. And hopefully that should mean something. So if I take a grip on the Shield 45, look how much finger I've got. I can go all the way out past the trigger guard just with my normal grip. P227, I take a nice normal snug grip, and that's it. That's as far as I can go. Not even nearly to the end of the trigger guard. And this doesn't have anything to do with designs of guns or anything like that, but you can see that while my finger fits the trigger pretty well, there's not a whole lot extra. On this one, I can hook it around there quite a bit. So again, that's the just an opinion grip index. It might mean something to you or it might not, but if you start seeing those numbers, at least you know where they came from.